Story number 1. The Shifting City. Jason was an experienced trekker, used to crossing harsh landscapes alone. When he found the ruins deep in the Sahara, crumbling towers, archways carved with symbols no archaeologist had ever documented, he felt a dangerous thrill. No maps mentioned this place. No satellite images showed it. He marked the coordinates, intending to leave at dawn. That night, strange things happened. Jason woke to find the campfire out. Not smothered gone, as if it had never been lit. His tent was pitched inside a long, crumbling corridor, the sky blotted out by towers that hadn't been there when he fell asleep. Heart pounding, he packed hurriedly, using his GPS to navigate. But every turn he took led back to the same courtyard, the same broken statue missing its face. Over the next days, Jason rationed water and tried to climb the walls. They stretched impossibly high now, crowned by structures that seemed to grow when he wasn't looking. He heard whispers, sometimes soft, desperate sounds. At first he thought it was the wind. Later he realized it was voices calling him by name. On the 4th day, his GPS failed. No signal. No sun overhead, only a thick haze. When he smashed his compass, desperate, the pieces turned to dust in his hand. His final journal entry, scrawled on the back of a ruined map, read, "I don't think this place was built. It is alive. It is dreaming. And it has decided to dream me inside it. Namobi Sandai. Sunday." Jason was never found. Some say that when the desert winds howl, you can hear him calling for help, just beyond the next dune. Story number 2. Whispers under the dunes. The drilling team had been working non-stop for weeks in the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, one of the largest sand deserts in the world. Their mission: locate new underground reservoirs for an energy company desperate for resources. At 2:14 a.m., the drill hit something strange. Not rock. Not water. It was softer, almost like tissue. And it bled. At first, the team thought they had ruptured some bizarre underground ecosystem. But the longer the drill remained stuck, the more disturbing things became. The ground beneath the camp began to vibrate at irregular intervals, like something massive shifting in its sleep. Equipment failed. Radios only transmitted static except when they didn't. Sometimes garbled voices spoke in ancient dialects no one could recognize. Then the workers started vanishing. Tracks would be found leading away from tents, single file, barefoot into the dunes, but they never returned. One night, the last remaining engineer, Malik, followed the newest trail out of desperation. It led into a pit, yawning wide in the sand, where the earth seemed to breathe. At the bottom, half buried in the shifting dust, Malik saw his missing co-workers fused into a great mass of flesh and bone, still twitching, still whispering. Before he could run, the sand beneath his feet liquefied. Fingers, dozens of them, emerged and pulled him under. Weeks later, a rescue team found the abandoned camp. No signs of violence, no bodies. Only the drill, still slowly rotating into the earth, and the faint sound of whispering, if you put your ear close enough to the ground. Story number 3. Dust Angels. There's a legend among the Navajo about the Dust Angels, spirits born from grief and scorched earth. Adam, a young anthropologist, dismissed it as just another desert myth when he arrived in Monument Valley to document tribal oral histories. He shouldn't have. One evening, while driving back to his camp, Adam saw shapes in the swirling dust, towering figures with long skeletal wings that shimmered like mirages. He assumed it was exhaustion playing tricks on him. But that night, the wind didn't howl. It sang. The next morning, he found massive wing prints circling his tent. Not footprints, wing prints, like something had hovered above him in the night, brushing the sand into intricate spiral patterns. As days passed, Adam grew gaunt. His voice cracked from thirst, though his canteens were full. His shadow sometimes moved opposite to him, flickering and jittering like it wanted to break free. The local elders refused to speak with him after he described what he saw. One old woman finally whispered, "They chose you. You're their cradle now." On the fourth night, the singing became unbearable not outside, but inside his head. The dust angels came down at dawn, tall, eyeless, draped in rags of sand. They placed their hands on his chest, and Adam felt something writhing into him, a colony of dry, ancient voices nesting under his ribs. When searchers found Adam's camp weeks later, the tent was shredded. The vehicle rusted through like decades had passed. All they found was a single, enormous wing print in the dust, and a ragged journal entry. "I am hollow now. I am how the desert dreams." Story number 4. The Salt Wives. When the last of the water dried from the Emerald Basin, it left behind a salt desert, endless white plains, glittering like glass beneath a pitiless sun. Locals whispered that the basin had once been a freshwater sea, home to spirits the Salt Wives women who drowned long ago, left behind when the water fled. Mara, a geologist surveying for lithium deposits, laughed at the legends. She thought the cracked salt flats were beautiful, in a dead kind of way. She camped alone at the basin center, surrounded by nothing but shimmering white emptiness. The first night, she dreamed of women standing at the edge of her camp, white-skinned, their hair floating as if underwater, their eyes hollow. When she woke, she found salt crusted thickly around her boots, her clothes, even her mouth, though she had not moved from her tent. The second night, the dreams grew worse. They stood closer, whispered her name in voices dry as wind-blown leaves. One of them touched her forehead in the dream, and she woke with a splitting migraine, her skin flaking off in white sheets. On the third night, Mara tried to run. She stumbled blind across the flats, but no matter how far she fled, she ended up back at her abandoned tent. The Salt Wives were waiting. In the morning, her equipment was found, crystallized over entirely with salt. No sign of Mara. Only footprints, small, delicate, barefoot, circling endlessly around the camp until they faded into the burning white. Some say if you listen at sunset, the Salt Wives sing her name across the flats, calling her to join their endless procession beneath the salt. Story number 5. Carrion Road. The old highway through Death Valley had been closed for decades, eaten by shifting sands and time. Locals said it was cursed, a road built over a sacred burial site, a place where the earth never forgot the blood it drank. Marcus didn't believe in curses. He was hauling stolen copper wiring across the desert, desperate to shave hours off his time. So when his GPS rerouted him onto the crumbling old road, he didn't hesitate. The first thing he noticed was the smell, sweet and rotting, like dead animals left too long in the sun. Then came the birds, thousands of them black and silent, perched along the skeletons of telephone poles, staring as he passed. He drove faster. It got worse. Shapes began appearing in the rearview mirror, bloated things crawling across the asphalt, clawing toward his truck. When he looked back, there was nothing but heat haze. But the sound, that dragging, slithering sound, was real. At mile 43, his truck died. Dead battery, dead engine, dead everything. Night was falling fast. Marcus locked the doors and waited. At midnight, the birds descended. Not normal birds, they were wrong. Too large, their wings torn and flayed, their eyes leaking black fluid. They pecked and clawed, trying to get in. Through the windshield, Marcus saw the road itself beginning to ripple like black oil, bubbling up broken faces and gnarled hands. When authorities found the truck weeks later, it was abandoned in the middle of the sun-bleached highway. Inside, the cab was empty except for hundreds of black feathers, and fingernail scratches gouged deep into the glass. The birds still roost there at dusk, watching, waiting. Story number 6. The Bone Thirst. Jonas was dying. Somewhere between Yuma and nowhere, his truck broke down. Miles of empty desert in every direction. No shade, no help, just an endless tide of heat and dust. He rationed water carefully the first day. Drank the last of it by noon the second day. By the third, his skin had blistered, cracked, peeled away in ragged strips. His tongue felt like paper. Still, he pressed on, delirious, hallucinating oasis after oasis. But what truly broke him wasn't thirst. It was the sound. At sunset, as the heat bled from the sand, he heard whispers low and dry, crawling over the ground. From cracks in the earth, white hands began to emerge, skeletal, brittle, moving wrong. They weren't looking for him. They were sniffing, seeking. Jonas tried to run, but the desert floor betrayed him, sinking like quicksand around his legs. They swarmed him, bony fingers clawing, scraping not for flesh, but for marrow. They needed what was inside him. He fought, screamed, begged. But one by one they broke him open, dislocating joints, peeling bones apart like wet bark, drinking the marrow with a horrid, greedy slurping sound. By dawn, Jonas was still alive, just barely, his body a hollow sack of skin, every bone inside him sucked dry, his limbs folding like cloth. His eyes remained open, paralyzed, watching the sun rise. Travelers sometimes find the flattened, dried-out remains of something out there. Not quite animal. Not quite human. They say if you get lost too long in that part of the desert, you can hear Jonas whispering one last word. Thirst. Story number 7. The Red Caravan. In the deserts beyond Marrakesh, the guides speak in hushed tones about a caravan that no longer belongs to the living. They call it the Red Caravan, a procession of tattered traders and broken camels, endlessly crossing dunes that don't exist on any map. Jacob, a thrill-seeker and photographer, heard the tale at a smoky tavern and laughed it off. Ghost stories, he thought. Tourist bait. But when he saw a line of figures shimmering on the horizon at sunset, dozens of men in red-stained robes, leading skeletal camels, he couldn't resist. He followed, camera in hand. They never seemed to get closer. The more he walked, the more the landscape changed. Dunes twisted into impossible spirals. The sun hung motionless in the sky. His footprints disappeared as soon as he made them. When Jacob finally caught up, he realized something was horribly wrong. The caravan's faces were wrong, blurred, as if seen underwater, their mouths sewn shut with black thread. The camels had no eyes. One of the robed figures turned and beckoned him forward. Compelled by something he couldn't name, Jacob fell into step behind them. They marched without stopping, without eating, without breathing. Days, weeks, maybe months past time slipped away like sand between fingers. His hunger faded. His thirst dulled. Only the endless march remained. Somewhere along the way, his skin began to turn red. Locals still see the Red Caravan sometimes at dusk. And if you listen closely, they say, you can hear one voice among the stitched mouths screaming without sound. Story number 8, Cicada Dust. The storm rolled over the Sonoran desert like a living thing, not rain, but a choking, endless tide of dust. People in the small town of Gila Bend called it the Cicada Storm because of the noise it carried. A deafening, metallic buzzing, as if a million wings were grinding against each other. Dale, a retired meteorologist, thought it was fascinating. He set up cameras, sensors, even special microphones. He wanted to capture the storm's voice. He got more than that. When the first wave of dust swallowed the town, everything changed. The sky turned the color of old bruises. The sun disappeared, replaced by a pulsing red light deep within the clouds. Static filled every radio, every phone, even the silence of the air itself. People began hearing things, voices that weren't their own, whispering from inside their heads. Memories surfaced that didn't belong to them. Some people wandered into the desert and simply dissolved into the dust, laughing as they went. Dale tried to document it all. His recordings captured only shrieking, insectile howls, layered so densely they formed words. You are ours. You were always ours. On the third day, he found his skin shedding in thin, brittle layers, like the husk of a cicada. His eyes cracked like glass. When he looked into the mirror, something looked back, something buried deep beneath his reflection, ancient and patient. The dust eventually settled. But Gila Bend was gone, not destroyed, not buried, just missing. Only a massive hollow in the desert remained, filled with a constant, low buzzing. And if you stand too close, sometimes the dust shifts, trying to remember you. Story number 9, Ash Mother. In the Black Rock Desert, there's a place the maps don't name, a cracked basin littered with white stones that aren't stones at all. If you ask the old Paiute guides, they'll tell you in half whispers, it's where Ash Mother breathes. Ellie, a volcanologist, dismissed the story as local superstition. She was there to study the heat fractures, the mineral deposits. She didn't believe in anything ancient still living under the earth. The first night, she built a fire on the plain. By morning, the fire pit had been moved a perfect circle, 10 feet to the left, still smoldering. She told herself it was a trick of the wind. The second night, her instruments recorded faint seismic activity, not the sharp tremors of a quake, but a slow, rhythmic breathing deep underground. That night, Ellie dreamed of a woman made of soot and smoke, her mouth filled with burning teeth, whispering promises Ellie couldn't quite remember upon waking. On the third night, Ellie woke to find her camp buried in fine grey ash, ankle deep. No clouds, no eruption, just ash and footprints too large to be human, circling her tent. Her radio failed. Her jeep wouldn't start. She tried to walk out. After hours of trudging, she returned not to her camp, but to a colossal hollow in the desert floor, pulsing like a sleeping heart. Standing at its edge, she finally understood. Ash Mother wasn't angry. She was lonely. And Ellie was already sinking into the warm, powdery embrace, her lungs filling with ancient ash, her body softening into the dust. The locals say Ash Mother is growing stronger again, filling the desert with children she has claimed. Listen carefully, you can hear them breathing under your feet. Story number 10, The Last Mirage. Elliot had been walking for days. A map led him out into the Mugave, far beyond where most sane hikers would venture, drawn by the stories of a lost oasis that could heal any ailment. A mirage, maybe, but Elliot had nothing left to lose. His lungs were scarred from years of smoking, his heart strained from stress and neglect. Desperation had driven him to the desert, seeking something, anything to fix him. It started on the second day of walking. In the distance, he saw the faint shimmer of water. Not just a blur, but clear, rippling water. He knew it couldn't be real, but as he stumbled forward, driven by thirst, the vision grew sharper, more vivid. He could almost taste it. On the third day, the oasis appeared again, closer. It looked perfect, an emerald pond surrounded by tall, lush palms. His parched throat burned with anticipation. But when he reached it, there was nothing but dry earth, cracked and blistering, as if the ground had absorbed the very life of the place. Frustrated, Elliot pushed on. The oasis kept appearing, always just ahead. With each step, the desert seemed to close in, stretching endlessly, folding in on itself like the inside of a dream he couldn't wake from. By the fifth day, something was wrong. He no longer felt thirst. He no longer felt hunger. But the oasis, always just out of reach, was calling him. He finally arrived, but this time when he knelt at the edge, the water was there. Cold, clear, inviting. He plunged his hands in, desperate to drink. His reflection rippled, and then he saw it. The face staring back at him was not his own, but one of a gaunt, hollow-eyed corpse. His skin was cracked, his body already half decayed. He reached up, his hands shaking. The oasis wasn't healing him. It was pulling him in, feeding on him, trapping him in a cycle of endless desire and despair. In the final moments before the darkness took him, Elliot realized the desert had never been trying to heal him. It had been trying to claim him all along. Thank you so much for watching these chilling desert horror stories. Which one sent a shiver down your spine? Or do you have a favorite desert legend you'd like to share? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed these eerie tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying stories. Hit the bell icon so you never miss out on new content. Until next time, remember, in the desert, some things are better left buried. Stay safe out there.